The story flashes back to the night before the incident, showing a quiet rural neighborhood. Tatsuhiko Shimazaki walks alone, noting the lack of streetlights and relying on the moonlight to see. Frustrated that he didn't arrive earlier, he enters the dark house. Using his phone as a flashlight, he searches for the breaker box. He remembers the washroom's location and heads that way. He finds the breaker panel and flips the switch. Tatsuhiko finds a framed photo of his maternal grandfather, Michihisa, who passed away 3 years ago. He learns that his grandfather's will, recently found in the attic, left the house to him. He sees no reason to downgrade from his current nice apartment, even though this house is only 3 stations away. He recalls his aunt suggesting he spend a night here, though he's wary of rumors that the house is haunted. A sudden thunk from inside the house startles him. Dismissing the noise as just the wind, he scoffs at the idea of ghosts. He decides to just shower and head to bed. As he moves an old wooden chair, it suddenly snaps and breaks. He kneels down, figuring he can fix the rundown item. Suddenly, the ceiling light begins to flicker. The power cuts out completely, leaving him in darkness. He wonders if it's a power outage. A faint whisper echoes through the darkness, telling him to get out. Startled, Tatsuhiko whips his head around. The entire house begins to creak and shake violently around him. Fearing the house is about to collapse, he makes a panicked dash for the veranda. Once outside, all the strange noises suddenly stop. Confused, he wonders what the noise and the voice were. Growing angry and suspecting a prank, he grabs a nearby broom and storms back inside. He quietly approaches the storage room door. He realizes someone is definitely in the storage room and plans to scare them off. A voice from inside mentions his grandfather's name, Michihisa, confirming Tatsuhiko's suspicion. From inside, the voice simply remarks on how unrefined he is. He slams the door open with his broom, demanding to know what is going on. Tatsuhiko stares in bewilderment at the creature before him. He finds a tanuki in a room decorated like a shrine to his grandfather. Both Tatsuhiko and the tanuki let out a terrified scream. Tatsuhiko swings the broom, striking the tanuki. The tanuki cries out in panic and tries to flee. As it runs by, he snatches the cloth from its head. Tatsuhiko holds the creature up, creeped out that it can talk. He questions if it's a pet and if there's a hidden speaker. The tanuki, offended, smacks him across the face with its tail. As smoke appears, it begins to introduce itself. The tanuki transforms into a young woman who introduces herself as the guardian deity of the house. She loses her balance and falls, landing on top of Tatsuhiko. He coughs on the ground while she apologizes. Getting to his feet, he angrily demands to know what she's doing in his house. Senka insists it's not a trick, but he questions how a tanuki could turn into a human. Floating upside down, Senka insists that while inexperienced, she is a real goddess. Tatsuhiko, bewildered, realizes this isn't an illusion and questions why he can see her. She becomes flustered, unable to believe he saw her hidden room. She explains that she used her divine power to hide the room, which became a normal storage room when he opened it again. Tatsuhiko questions her claim of being a goddess and her presence in the house, as well as the strange room. Senka explains that the room is her idol shrine. She clarifies that Michihisa took care of her for years when she was just a tanuki. Tatsuhiko wonders if his grandpa kept a tanuki as a pet, but Senka angrily clarifies they lived together. She explains that after Michihisa passed away, she became the house's guardian deity. She angrily confronts Tatsuhiko, declaring she won't allow a stranger who never visited his grandfather to live there. Tatsuhiko realizes she must have hidden the will, and she admits it. She states firmly that the house does not need any more residents. Senka tells Tatsuhiko to leave immediately, as he doesn't seem interested in the house. Tatsuhiko points out that his grandpa left the house to him and asks if she can ignore his wishes, noting the will didn't mention her either. He suggests maybe his grandpa cared more about his grandson after all. Senka glares at him, deeply hurt by his words. Tatsuhiko gulps, realizing he may have gone too far. She transforms into a tanuki and smacks him across the face with her tail. She declares the house is filled with her precious memories and she will not accept this. Senka tells him not to stay with such a careless attitude. She allows him to stay for one night since it's late, and he sarcastically thanks her. As night falls, the sounds of insects fill the air. Lying on a futon, Tatsuhiko remains skeptical about the guardian deity situation. Tatsuhiko wakes up, feeling guilty that he never visited his grandfather. The sounds of cicadas fill the morning air. Senka, in her tanuki form, greets him only to tell him to leave immediately. He dryly retorts that he'd at least like to have breakfast first. Senka, in her tanuki form, presents a steaming hot breakfast toast, explaining she made enough for two. She explains that gods don't need to eat but they can, and he tells her to go ahead. She transforms into her human form and decides to try some. She thanks him and takes a crunchy bite. She almost drops the egg but saves it just in time. As they eat together, she watches him with a thoughtful expression. Senka's face lights up as she declares the toast is so good. She happily munches on the toast, saying it's delicious. Tatsuhiko smiles, pleased, and tells her he's glad she likes it. Senka asks if Michihisa taught him the dish, but Tatsuhiko explains that his mother often made toast with various toppings. Senka looks at the food fondly, remembering it always smelled so good and realizing this is the taste Michihisa enjoyed. He remembers his mother often made similar toast dishes. Tatsuhiko figures his grandpa must have learned the recipe from his mom. Later they sit outside, and he apologizes for his cheap shot regarding the will. While they eat, he asks for her name. She introduces herself as Senka, explaining that she met Michihisa under some Senkazura vines, which bloom around this time. Tatsuhiko realizes his grandpa named her. He asks if his grandpa was a good person to her. Senka remembers the only time she saw him was the year his mother died, when he came to stay on his own. Tatsuhiko admits his memory of that time is hazy and that his grandfather never contacted him after, making him feel he wasn't interested in him. Senka listens with a concerned expression as he explains he doesn't know why the house was left to him. He angrily suggests the house is just a way to make up for lost time, but Senka quickly interjects, insisting that Michihisa wasn't like that. As he washes dishes, he considers that maybe his grandfather was just good at putting on a front. He notices the broken back door. Senka explains it broke during a typhoon and that it's cracked with a broken hinge and corroded frame. Since the lock doesn't work, Tatsuhiko decides to nail it shut and asks for tools. Tatsuhiko is amazed to find a neatly arranged, fully stocked workshop. He excitedly points out the amazing collection of tools. He happily declares that DIY is his hobby and realizes his grandpa must have been into it as well. Senka shows off a hair ornament she made from something Michihisa crafted, confirming he used to repair the house. With some nice planks available, they begin fixing the door together. Tatsuhiko asks why she can't fix the door, but she explains she only protects the house from calamities. She clarifies her role is to protect from disasters and chase away intruders, which Tatsuhiko finds intense. She explains that there used to be many deities in the house, but she's limited in what she can do alone. Senka explains that innumerable gods live nearby and need a place to call home to exist. But after Michihisa passed away, all the other deities left the house. Tatsuhiko asks if his grandfather could see the gods, but she clarifies that they only watched over him, only she could see them. He declares that now he is the one looking after the house in their place. After drilling a pilot hole, he offers the drill to Senka. Tatsuhiko tells her not to be so scared, but she yelps as the drill bounces. She closes her eyes tightly as she nervously holds the drill. She accidentally puts too much force into it, and the drill slips with a loud bang. Tatsuhiko laughs and calls her clumsy. With the door boarded up, Senka thanks him for his help. He asks if there are any other security risks, and she replies that everything is fine now. He then grabs the broken chair, eager to fix it, while Senka protests that he's done enough. The sounds of summer fill the air as children play nearby. Senka, in her tanuki form, rests on the porch. She watches Tatsuhiko as he diligently works on repairing the broken chair. From inside, Senka watches Tatsuhiko work on the veranda under the bright sun. She continues to observe him, resting her head on her paws. Tatsuhiko teases her, calling her a clumsy tanuki. He cheerfully asks if she wants to try painting. He assures her that even if she's clumsy, she can handle it, though she asks him to stop calling her that. She enthusiastically grabs the brush from him, ready to start. Tatsuhiko calls her a natural, though he's covered in paint. Senka apologizes with a bright, happy smile. Tatsuhiko is momentarily stunned by her genuine expression. They continue their work together in the yard. As night falls, they admire the charming old house. Tatsuhiko decides it's time to head back, admitting he got carried away with the DIY. He tells Senka that since his parents aren't handy, he used to wonder who he took after. He wistfully says he wishes he had known his grandfather while he was still alive. Senka listens quietly. As he gets ready to leave, he puts on his sandals. Senka suddenly thrusts an old photograph into his chest, startling him. Tatsuhiko is surprised to see it's an old photo of himself as a child. Senka recalls Michihisa often looking at the photo, believing there was a reason he didn't meet with him. She tells him it wasn't just for appearances. She pleads with Tatsuhiko to believe that his grandfather was a warm-hearted person. Tatsuhiko looks from the photo to Senka, realizing his grandfather cared. He looks at her with a gentle smile and says he still should have come sooner. With all the tools available, he wonders if he can fix the back door himself. Tatsuhiko considers that he won't live here but can visit regularly. Since the house means so much to Senka, he decides it might be a good idea to help preserve it. Senka quietly says she had a great time today. She muses that it must be boring being all alone in the house. Tatsuhiko looks at her seriously and tells her there's no need for that. As Tatsuhiko sits on the porch, Senka quietly walks away. The back door they repaired slams shut and is barred from the outside. He calls out to her, confused. She explains she became a goddess to ensure the house remains untouched until it quietly decays. Tatsuhiko questions her plan to let the house crumble away, since a deity can't exist without a home. Senka states her desire to vanish along with her memories of Michihisa in the house. Tatsuhiko can't believe she plans to keep everyone away and die alone in the house. She tells him to just leave her alone, as she has no attachments now that Michihisa is gone. As Senka walks away, Tatsuhiko wonders if he was the only one who had fun. She yells that he does not get it. With tears in her eyes, she cries out that she's afraid of being left behind again. Senka explains that the lifespan of a god and a human are vastly different. She never wants to experience the pain of loss again when joyful times suddenly vanish. She tells him to feel free to take any tools he likes. As Tatsuhiko begins to pack his bag, Senka watches. She looks on with a pained expression. She tries to hold back her tears. Suddenly, she hears a loud clatter from outside. The back door they had just fixed has fallen apart again. Tatsuhiko complains about their shoddy work, then confesses he felt guilty when he heard his grandpa died alone. He admits that once he realized she had always been by his grandfather's side, he felt relieved. He confesses that though it may sound selfish, he does not want her to be left alone either. Senka asks if he does not regret the time he spent with his grandpa. She acknowledges that even gods have a limited lifespan. Tatsuhiko smiles warmly and suggests that since they've met, they should enjoy their time together so much that there's no room for regret. Senka looks up at him with tears in her eyes. He remembers his grandfather doing the same. He gently pats Senka on the head. He turns to her with a question. Tatsuhiko announces he's heading home for now but will fix the latch first. As he turns, Senka gently grabs his shirt. She tells him this is why she asked that he return home earlier. Senka offers to help and asks him to teach her more about using tools. They share a tender glance, a new understanding between them. The tender moment is abruptly broken by the loud grumbling of Senka's stomach. Tatsuhiko teases her for killing the mood. He then notices the mochi from the previous night and suggests they eat it. As Tatsuhiko takes a bite of the mochi, Senka panics and yells for him to stop. He stops, confused, and complains that the mochi has no filling. Suddenly, a loud boom echoes around them. The startled pair are surrounded by an explosion of confetti and cheers. A crowd of local deities suddenly appears, congratulating them on their marriage. The deities are amazed that the husband is a human. They are further delighted to learn he is Michihisa's grandson. Deciding it's a happy occasion, they celebrate wildly, tossing a bewildered Tatsuhiko into the air. The deities quickly decide that's enough celebrating. They declare they will leave the two lovebirds be and vanish. Silence falls upon the yard where Tatsuhiko sits on the ground, stunned. A bewildered Tatsuhiko asks if it was all a dream, but Senka confirms it was reality. He asks who those guys were, and she explains they were the local deities. Senka explains the tradition of the third night mochi, where a man visiting a woman for 3 nights becomes her husband if served the mochi on the 3rd night. She confirms the mochi he ate was that very one. Tatsuhiko is amazed to learn how marriage worked in the past. Senka wonders why the mochi appeared, but Tatsuhiko points out this was only his 2nd night. Tatsuhiko stammers, realizing that because he ate the mochi. Senka confirms with a sparkle in her eye that they have become a married couple. Tatsuhiko recalls inheriting his grandfather's house and discovering Senka, a former tanuki turned guardian goddess. Suddenly, Tatsuhiko finds himself in a heated argument, insisting he never agreed to any marriage. The source of the confusion is a tradition involving third night mochi, which seals a marriage if served on the third night of a visit. Outraged, Tatsuhiko argues that it's the modern era, and besides, it hasn't even been 3 days. Senka calmly suggests that the conditions might be different for gods and humans. Tatsuhiko retorts that he would have left if he had known, prompting Senka to remind him that was why she kept telling him to go home. Brushing it off, Tatsuhiko reasons that since there are no legal bindings between a human and a goddess, it is not a big deal. He decides to head home for the day. His stomach grumbling with hunger, Tatsuhiko bids Senka farewell and leaves. As he rides his bicycle down the quiet street, he reflects on the strange turn of events. He reassures himself that it probably will not affect his life much. Just as he feels relieved, his bicycle suddenly lifts off the ground, floating through the air. He loses control and crashes hard. Dazed, he finds himself right back in front of the house. He looks up to see Senka, who begins to explain what happens when a human marries a god. Senka explains that they cannot be separated. If he moves beyond a certain distance, he will be forcibly brought back. Furious, Tatsuhiko demands to know why she did not tell him sooner, but she replies calmly that she wanted him to experience it firsthand. The shocking realization dawns on Tatsuhiko: he has to live here now. He confronts Senka, questioning if she is the one calling the shots, but she simply tells him to show some respect. Later, while resting on his futon, Tatsuhiko sighs, wondering if he really has to move in, but feels a small victory in managing a trip to the convenience store. His thoughts drift to Senka, who has been alone for 3 years. Suddenly, a clattering noise from the kitchen startles him. He calls out her name, wondering if it's Senka. Tatsuhiko enters the kitchen to find a small, winged girl with blonde hair rummaging through his groceries by the open refrigerator. He stares in shock, trying to understand what is happening. The girl is startled to see him, questioning how a human can see her, while an annoyed Tatsuhiko demands to know who she is. He is more concerned about his food stock than the strange intruder. In a puff of smoke, the girl transforms into a squirrel-like creature and playfully challenges Tatsuhiko. However, her feast is short-lived as she collapses. She complains that her stomach is about to burst since she ate too much food for her small form. Senka rushes in, asking Tatsuhiko what happened. He points at the creature and asks if she knows the thief, but Senka says she does not. The little goddess indignantly introduces herself as Nara, an oak tree leaf guardian. Senka explains that an oak tree guardian is a god who protects oak trees. Tatsuhiko questions why a tree guardian would be rummaging for food, as he thought gods did not need to eat. Nara cheerfully adds that the simple reason is her love for human food. She prefers living near humans to sneak snacks, unlike other guardians who remain in the mountains. Tatsuhiko points out she could have wandered from house to house, but Nara explains her previous home became uninhabitable. She then states the conditions for entering a human home: a way in. As they talk, they discover a hole in the wall, which seems to be Nara's entry point. Another condition is the presence of well-cared-for oak trees, though Tatsuhiko notes they do not have any in their yard. Nara clarifies that the oak does not need to be in the yard, and quickly locates the source of the divine presence. She finds the chair that Tatsuhiko and Senka had repaired. Tatsuhiko realizes the chair is made of oak wood, just as Senka points out it's the one he fixed. Nara explains that the chair emits a strong presence because they cared for it together, and this is what drew her to the house. Nara explains that even as a simple board, oak wood thrives when well cared for. Beaming, she thanks both Tatsuhiko and Senka for taking care of it together. Tatsuhiko is left slightly flustered by her gratitude. She cheerfully announces that from now on, they should prepare 3 meals a day for her, as Tatsuhiko questions her plan to move in. Nara declares the house a perfect place for her, especially since she can request meals from humans who can see gods. Nara flops onto a futon, contentedly sighing about how glad she is to have found this house. Tatsuhiko is annoyed that Nara ate everything and immediately fell asleep on his futon. Senka gently covers the sleeping girl, explaining that she must be exhausted from her search for a new home. She reminds him that gods need a place to call home to exist, a fact that gives Tatsuhiko pause. Watching the house from the veranda, Tatsuhiko considers giving Nara a proper meal the next day. The next morning, he is jolted awake by Nara pouncing on him, demanding that he wake up. Nara cheerfully wishes Tatsuhiko good morning, but he just calls her a little brat. Senka tries to scold Nara for being dangerous, but Nara retorts that she's 50 years old and demands to be called Big Sister Nara. As Nara eagerly anticipates breakfast, Tatsuhiko groans, realizing it's only 6 in the morning and he needs to buy more groceries. A feast is laid out on the table. Nara is ecstatic about her pizza toast, bouncing with excitement. Senka thanks Tatsuhiko for making her a meal as well, noting it is not much more work to cook for 3. He explains he found a cheap roadside stand for vegetables. When Nara complains about the green peppers, Tatsuhiko tells her to eat them, reminding her she is 50. Senka gently tells Nara that age has nothing to do with it, and that even adults have dislikes. Tatsuhiko notices Senka isn't eating and asks if she's not hungry. This piques Nara's curiosity about Senka's own preferences. She quietly replies that it's just been a long time since the house felt so lively. With a gentle smile, Senka says the lively atmosphere takes her back. Tatsuhiko reflects on this, recalling that after his grandfather Michihisa passed away, all the other deities who lived in the house left. The memory reminds him of his own family's past. A woman who appears to be Tatsuhiko's aunt arrives and cheekily asks if he accidentally got married, while Nara questions if he lives there. The woman scolds Tatsuhiko for not appreciating his cute wife, calling him a pig for just lying around. Nara tries to explain that marriages between gods and humans are uncommon. Tatsuhiko, annoyed, complains about her casual attitude. The woman philosophizes that every encounter has meaning and is part of fate, so they should enjoy this connection. She asks if it is not fun to eat together like this. Tatsuhiko reluctantly agrees, but mutters that marriage is a completely different story. Nara jumps to Senka's defense, asking Tatsuhiko what his problem is with his cute wife. The woman teases Tatsuhiko, asking if Senka is not his type, and calling him a guy with unrealistic standards. Flustered, Tatsuhiko slams the table, shouting that Senka is cute, but that is not the point. His outburst surprises a blushing Senka. Nara continues to pester Tatsuhiko, asking if he prefers someone more voluptuous, causing Senka to reel in shock. Senka protests that she is at least average. Tatsuhiko clarifies that his issue is that being married to a goddess limits his freedom, and that marriage should be between people who love each other. Nara counters that arranged marriages were common in the past, a point Tatsuhiko concedes. Tatsuhiko drags Senka and Nara outside. He asks them if they worked on the boarded-up back door together. He points to a decayed section where Nara had tried to gnaw a hole to get inside. However, she could not make a dent because it was protected by a strong barrier. Nara explains that deep bonds hold great power. She adds that a marriage between a goddess and a human makes the barrier even stronger. She proudly presents this as proof of her helpfulness, but Tatsuhiko is not convinced. Nara continues, explaining that the chair also emitted extraordinary power for the same reason. She declares that she was drawn to the house by the deep connection between Tatsuhiko and Senka, calling them a perfect match, and joyfully hugs them both. Nara bounces happily on the roof, suggesting that if Tatsuhiko and Senka work on the house together, more gods might come to live there. A moment later, Senka announces she's hungry again. Tatsuhiko points out she just ate, but Nara adds that she eats whenever she feels like it. The group enjoys an instant beef bowl together, and Senka is surprised by how happy Nara is with such a simple meal. Nara offers a bite to Senka. She then offers a bite to Tatsuhiko. Everyone is enjoying the lively meal. Senka explains that Nara always used to eat by herself in secret. She always wanted to share a meal with someone. With a full and happy smile, Nara tells them she is so glad she met them both. She thanks them. Nara promptly falls asleep at the table, and Tatsuhiko comments on her hectic schedule. He asks Senka about the lifespan of gods, and she explains it varies greatly, from decades to millennia, while he carries the sleeping Nara. Senka watches, worried that she will eventually be left behind again. Senka asks if he is sure his grandfather could not see gods, and he confirms it. Tatsuhiko wonders aloud if his grandfather foresaw all this, but dismisses the thought. He then apologizes to Senka for everything that has happened since they became a couple. Senka sadly says she is not very appealing, but Tatsuhiko insists that is not the problem. He explains that the marriage and distance restriction caught him off guard. Flustered, Tatsuhiko quickly clarifies that he does not dislike Senka at all. He reiterates that he does not want to leave her alone. He suggests that if they fix up the house together, they will attract more gods. Looking at Senka with determination, Tatsuhiko declares that he will make the house so lively that she will never feel lonely again, whether it is for hundreds or even thousands of years. As Senka looks at Tatsuhiko, she thinks to herself that strong bonds are eternal. Senka is left speechless and blushing by his heartfelt promise, while Nara smirks from her futon. From the rooftop, the other deities agree, telling them not to worry about Nara and to feel free to hug. A new goddess, the gluttonous oak tree guardian Nara, announces her intention to formally introduce herself to the surrounding gods. Watching from the porch, Tatsuhiko notes that it is a proper thing to do, but questions her etiquette, considering she trespassed and stole food. Nara gathers a pile of snacks, cheerfully declaring she will take them as gifts, much to Tatsuhiko's annoyance as they are his. Tatsuhiko decides he wants to head back to his own place for now, as he's run out of clothes. He notices Senka in her tanuki form, deeply inhaling the scent from his grandfather's old clothes. Remembering her bond with Michihisa, Senka transforms and fiercely protects the clothes, unwilling to let his scent fade away. Tatsuhiko anxiously wonders if he can even make it back to his own home. He recalls the Mochi ceremony that accidentally bound him in marriage to Senka. This bond now prevents him from moving beyond a certain distance from her. He confirms with Senka that she at least is not bound to the house, which gives him a small sense of relief. However, he is still left with the daunting task of explaining his sudden marriage to his dad. He cringes, remembering he had thought he would not need to explain things, since ordinary people cannot see gods. He recalls the moment he first met Nara and Senka, and their surprise that he could see them. Riding through town with Senka in his bicycle basket, he asks if she is getting motion sick, to which she replies she is fine. Arriving near Kitahama Station, Tatsuhiko complains about the distance. Feeling hot, he decides to stop at a supermarket to buy a drink. An older woman mistakes his jinbei for festival wear, asking if an event is happening. Tatsuhiko asks Senka if his clothing is that unusual, but she is unsure. Suddenly, Senka is startled as someone tugs on her clothing. A little girl, captivated by Senka's outfit, approaches and compliments her skirt. The girl's mother apologizes for her daughter startling Senka. Other shoppers also notice their attire, wondering if they are dressed for a special event. Tatsuhiko and Senka retreat to a quieter area. He exclaims that she is completely visible, and Senka reacts with disbelief. Tatsuhiko asks Senka, now in her tanuki form, if anyone saw her during their journey, and she confirms they did not. However, a flashback reveals that several people did see her, mistaking her for a puppy or a tanuki. Tatsuhiko furiously pedals his bike, yelling that the only reason no one made a fuss was because the road was empty. Stopping at a bus stop, a flustered Tatsuhiko asks what is going on, but Senka has no idea. Senka, in her tanuki form, is horrified by the realization that everyone can see her. Tatsuhiko advises her to switch to human form, as it is better to be seen as a cosplayer since pets are not allowed where they are going. Tatsuhiko sighs in defeat, wondering how he will explain this to his dad. As they arrive at the front door, a man greets Tatsuhiko. Tatsuhiko's father asks about his trip to his grandpa's house before noticing Senka and asking who she is. His father's eyes widen in shock, as he immediately assumes she must be Tatsuhiko's girlfriend. While Tatsuhiko tries to calm him down, his father excitedly introduces himself to a bewildered Senka. He eagerly beckons them inside, offering tea. He enthusiastically invites Senka to stay for dinner, asking what she would like to eat. Tatsuhiko begs his father to stop embarrassing him, but his father is too happy, asking Senka to take care of his son. He peppers them with questions about her outfit and their supposed coordinated look. Finally having enough, Tatsuhiko slams his hand on the table and shouts for his father to listen, declaring that Senka is a goddess and his wife, not his girlfriend. Tatsuhiko immediately realizes he revealed way too much information at once. His father is left stunned and speechless by the revelation. The father's shock turns to anger as he jumps to the conclusion that Tatsuhiko got Senka pregnant. He grabs his son, vowing to apologize to Senka's parents and make Tatsuhiko take responsibility. Tatsuhiko desperately tries to explain that's not what happened. The father and son shout back and forth, completely misunderstanding each other. Finally, Senka intervenes, calmly stating that she will explain everything from the beginning. After hearing the story, Tatsuhiko's father seems to accept the situation, but is still skeptical about the goddess stuff. To demonstrate, Senka transforms into her tanuki form. Tatsuhiko is surprised when she suddenly hops onto the table. His father is instantly charmed by her cute form and eagerly asks if he can pet her. The father is overjoyed by how cute and fluffy she is, though he worries if petting her would be inappropriate. Senka reassures him that petting is fine. Tatsuhiko walks in to find his father cooing over and petting Senka in her tanuki form. Having understood everything, the father tells them to prepare for the move since the apartment lease is ending soon. He then suggests Senka stay the night and tells Tatsuhiko to get his room ready for her. Senka takes in her surroundings in Tatsuhiko's room. She lies down on his bed and notices a faint, familiar scent. She realizes with a gentle thought that his scent resembles Michihisa's. She remembers him lifting her up, warning her about a weak spot on the floor. He had then gently petted her, promising to fix the floorboard so she would not fall through. He warmly invited her to join him for some sunbathing. She remembers growing impatient and smacking her tail on the floorboard. She recalls running through the empty hallway, calling his name and asking when he would fix it. Waking from her memories, Senka sits up in Tatsuhiko's room as morning arrives. She hears the door open and smells something delicious. Tatsuhiko offers her tuna and corn toast, which she happily accepts. Tatsuhiko asks her if she likes the food. With a bright smile, Senka enthusiastically says yes. Upon returning to the old house, they find a drunk Nara, who had received sacred sake as a housewarming gift and was excited to see them. With Nara now asleep, Tatsuhiko comments that they have no sake left. With Senka on his shoulder, he decides they should check out the house since they'll be living there. He immediately notices how much the old house creaks as he walks. Looking under the floor, he sees that the beams are rotting. He also finds a broken gutter that is causing rainwater to splash against the side of the house. In the bathroom, Tatsuhiko shivers, imagining how cold it must be in the winter. Senka suggests putting down a slatted mat to help with the cold floor. Tatsuhiko also finds a hole in the wall that needs to be sealed. He opens a box and finds a set of carving tools. Nearby, he sees a row of small wooden animal carvings and realizes his grandfather must have made them. He finds a piece of wood that is only partly carved and decides to work on it. Tatsuhiko decides to postpone the house repairs for now to focus on the carving. He tells Senka that he also likes to carve wood and asks if she saw the ones in his room. As he begins to work, Senka watches him, her heart skipping a beat. As Tatsuhiko carves, Senka sees a vision of his grandfather's spirit beside him. She watches him, her eyes wide with emotion. He finishes the carving of a squirrel and places it with the others. In a flashback, Michihisa heads out for shopping while Senka wonders why he doesn't make a tanuki carving like her. He waves goodbye, promising to be right back. Alone in the empty house, Senka sadly realizes Michihisa was a liar and would not be returning. He places the finished carving on the floor. Tatsuhiko proudly presents the finished tanuki carving to Senka. Senka transforms and holds the carving, explaining that Michihisa was not trying to make a tanuki. She gestures to the collection, noting that he had never carved a tanuki before. Tatsuhiko is confused, admitting he thought it was meant to be her. Senka explains that people usually carve their favorite animals first. Tatsuhiko realizes his grandfather must have thought that the only tanuki he needed was the real Senka. Senka is left speechless, a blush spreading across her face. Tatsuhiko asks why his grandfather didn't finish it, and Senka replies there's no way to know for sure. She quietly thanks him. As she moves, a floorboard creaks loudly. Tatsuhiko grabs her arm, telling her to be careful. Senka warns him to watch out for the weak floorboards and says they should fix them soon. He smiles and jokes that they need to fix it before a tanuki falls through. Senka looks at him with wide, emotional eyes. Overcome with emotion, she stumbles forward and Tatsuhiko catches her. She transforms back into a tanuki and burrows into his shirt. Sobbing, she says that Michihisa lied to her. She cries that he promised he would fix the floor. She tearfully remembers him saying he would be right back. He gently pets her back to comfort her. Tatsuhiko sits with her on the veranda, holding her close as she cries. He explains that his grandfather passed away suddenly before a scheduled checkup. Tatsuhiko holds up the small carving, suggesting his grandfather wanted to keep it close. Senka looks at the carving with teary eyes. After her tears subside, Senka bounces onto Tatsuhiko, announcing she is hungry just as a sleepy Nara appears. A still drunk Nara asks what's going on, catching Tatsuhiko and Senka in an awkward embrace. The night is quiet under the moon. Senka sleeps soundly on the veranda, the small wooden tanuki carving beside her. As she sleeps, a hand gently pets her head. In her sleep, she dreams of Michihisa petting her. Meanwhile, Tatsuhiko sleeps restlessly inside. Tatsuhiko wakes up to find Senka curled up asleep beside him. He looks at her confused. He sees that she is clutching the small wooden carving his grandfather made. He gently places the wooden carving in her paws. Tatsuhiko lies back down and holds Senka as they sleep, embracing both the past and the present. On a lovely walk, a small girl named Nara balances on a fence, happily wondering what she'll have for breakfast. An elderly woman pushing a cart calls out to the young lady on the fence. She warns Nara that it's dangerous to be climbing up there. Nara turns to look at the woman who has called out to her. Through an unusual turn of events, Tatsuhiko found himself married to a guardian deity named Senka. Following this, he moved into the house that once belonged to his deceased grandfather. A man with glasses arrives at the door, greeting them warmly and holding a bag of rice balls he brought for their breakfast. The couple's new life is described as unpredictably chaotic as they sleep together on a futon. Tatsuhiko's father enters the room and is stunned by the scene, dropping the bag of food. Tatsuhiko slowly wakes up, rubbing his eyes. He looks up to see his father standing in the doorway, while Senka remains asleep on his chest. Tatsuhiko screams in embarrassment while his father covers his eyes. Panicked, Tatsuhiko insists it's not what it looks like, while his father makes a hasty retreat for work. The father cheerfully says he doesn't mind since they are married, but Tatsuhiko tells him to stop calling himself Papa. As a sleepy Senka asks about the noise, a frustrated Tatsuhiko demands to know why she is in human form. Senka suddenly transforms into her tanuki form with a FWAP. The large tanuki stands before a shocked Tatsuhiko, who thinks this must be a dream. The tanuki promptly smacks Tatsuhiko, sending him flying. Tatsuhiko's father looks on in shock as the tanuki holds Tatsuhiko's leg. Tatsuhiko gets up and yells at Senka for physically hitting him, and she apologizes. Senka introduces the creature as Gashin, her protective servant, leaving the two men bewildered. A flashback demonstrates Gashin's strength and handiness by showing him moving a large piece of furniture. Tatsuhiko and Senka stand on the porch as she apologizes. Senka explains to Tatsuhiko that she became lonely while thinking about Michihisa. Nara admits that she had hoped to sneak out before Tatsuhiko woke up. Suddenly, Nara leaps out of the tall grass and grabs onto Tatsuhiko from behind. Nara panics, realizing a human has seen her, and demands that Tatsuhiko let her go. Tatsuhiko's father looks on in amazement at Gashin and Nara, asking if she is the squirrel deity. On the table sit the rice balls that were brought for breakfast. Senka looks on in shock, questioning why Nara can now be seen by humans. Nara explains that she thinks something about the house is the cause of the strange occurrences. She proudly recounts how she used to steal food from pedestrians and distracted people before coming to the house. The group discusses the situation, with Tatsuhiko's father noting that he's never experienced this before. Senka suggests that her and Tatsuhiko's marriage must have been the trigger for these events. Tatsuhiko's father questions if marrying a deity causes such strange things, and Nara admits she isn't sure due to lack of precedent. With the situation at hand, Senka declares that there is only one course of action. Nara insists they should wait until lunchtime. Their destination is the Chinese restaurant Phoenix King. A delicious-looking bowl of ramen is presented. The group sits down at a table in the ramen shop, much to the father's confusion. Nara excitedly gets ready to eat, remarking how tough it was to sneak ramen before. Tatsuhiko warns Nara to be careful as she eagerly digs into her ramen. Senka thanks Tatsuhiko for the clothes, and he explains her usual outfit is too noticeable. Tatsuhiko slurps his noodles, commenting that ramen is too hot for summer. Senka explains to her father-in-law that gods can adapt to any temperature. Nara orders more miso ramen and fried rice, prompting a question about her limitless appetite. Nara eagerly reaches for Tatsuhiko's bowl to have some of his noodles. Nara devours her food with gusto while Tatsuhiko yells at her to stop slurping, and Senka watches with a smile. The scene transitions to a quiet shoreline with small boats. The sun glints off the calm ocean waves. Tatsuhiko, Senka, and Nara enjoy ice cream bars while standing in the shallow water at the beach. Nara happily offers Tatsuhiko a bite of her ice cream, warning him that he'll have to take her on many more food adventures. Tatsuhiko observes how excited Nara seems as she plays in the water. Senka admits it can be frustrating to only be able to see the world without interacting. She expresses her gratitude to Tatsuhiko for allowing her to experience so many firsts. Senka stands in the water, enjoying her ice cream and telling Tatsuhiko she's having a lot of fun. Tatsuhiko smiles, thinking about what Senka said. He considers that if their marriage is what made Senka visible, it might not be a bad thing. Tatsuhiko and Senka stand side by side in the water, and he reflects that maybe it's a good thing they got married. Senka gives Tatsuhiko a questioning look as he enjoys his ice cream. Tatsuhiko gets flustered and tries to explain that he meant their marriage has its benefits. Nara slips in the water and clings to Tatsuhiko's shirt, getting them both soaked. He tells the clumsy goddess to pick up her dropped ice cream stick. Senka muses that Nara shows no signs of having 50 years of wisdom. Nara starts a splash fight with Tatsuhiko. She yells that he mocked her, and he retaliates by splashing her back. Tatsuhiko's father asks them to stop splashing, reminding them that he treated them to lunch. Nara accidentally knocks Senka over with a splash. Senka falls face first into the water with a large sploosh. Her ice cream floats away as she goes under. Wringing out her wet hair, Senka smiles and suggests they make things more exciting. A massive wave summoned by Gashin crashes over a shocked Tatsuhiko and Nara. Back at home, Tatsuhiko's father arrives with lunch, wondering how the power dynamic shifted so drastically in one day, as Gashin gives Senka a massage. A traditional marriage ritual known as Third Night Mochi is what bound Tatsuhiko and Senka together. Senka, the guardian deity of the house, helps clean up the yard. Exhausted from all the work, Tatsuhiko collapses onto a nearby bench. A small girl brings out refreshments, and Tatsuhiko playfully accuses her of running away to avoid helping. They comment on how much neater the garden looks now that it's been cleared of overgrowth. Senka explains that people used to visit the abandoned-looking property for tests of courage, which makes Tatsuhiko uneasy. Senka confesses to scaring people away, which Tatsuhiko complains only adds to the haunted house rumors. She worries that it could be dangerous if Tatsuhiko were to encounter any of these trespassers. While trying to sleep, Tatsuhiko feels an intimidating pressure from Gashin standing guard over him. Tatsuhiko tries to reassure himself that visitors won't come by often. His attempt to sleep is made worse by Gashin rolling on top of him. Suddenly, a series of knocks on the door jolts him awake. Startled, he wonders if it was a real knock or just a bug hitting the house. He recalls riding home from the store, suddenly worrying if he'd forgotten to lock the door. His memory is interrupted by a rattling sound coming from inside the house. The sound of creaking floorboards echoes through the quiet house. Realizing someone is inside, Tatsuhiko desperately tries to wake the soundly sleeping Gashin. He cautiously peeks down the dark hallway. A large, imposing shadow falls across the paper screen door, confirming Tatsuhiko's fears. The mysterious figure thanks someone for inviting him in. Tatsuhiko is stunned into silence by the sudden appearance of the deity. The wolf deity slides the door open and is surprised to see a human. The dog deity remarks that he thought the house was empty and is surprised that a human can see him. A terrified Tatsuhiko calls for his bodyguard, Gashin, to take care of the intruder. A small tanuki explains that Tatsuhiko is the grandson of the previous resident. With a puff of smoke, Senka appears and the dog deity greets her as Madam Tanuki, offering a gift. The dog deity requests to be invited as a suitor the next day, shocking Tatsuhiko. He states that he is looking forward to the third night Mochi. After the deity leaves, Tatsuhiko asks Senka about the terrifying visitor. Tatsuhiko asks about the suitor and the Mochi ritual, while Senka explains that other gods sometimes visit the house. Senka admits she was too intimidated to tell the deity they were already married. She worries aloud that dogs are much stronger than tanuki, confusing Tatsuhiko. Tatsuhiko confronts Nara, who is fast asleep during the dog deity's visit, and she calls him useless for it. Nara reassures them that there's no need to worry because most gods follow custom. A tanuki explains that if they don't let the deity in, he will consider it a rejection and leave. She announces she will be gone for a while. With that, Nara leaps out of the house and disappears. Tatsuhiko watches her go, thinking that she just ran away from the problem. Tatsuhiko asks why gods are so interested in this particular house. The tanuki explains that the land itself is special to gods. He reveals that the property is a spiritual hotspot. The hotspot enhances vitality and relieves ailments, much like a hot spring. This is why gods have been drawn to this location for ages. Senka explains that the blessings from the land allow a novice goddess like herself to transform. Tatsuhiko is surprised to learn that not all deities can transform, as it depends on their divine status. Senka explains that other gods want to become a divine couple with her to receive the land's blessings. Tatsuhiko asks if he also receives